I ain't buying a baby." His voice was cold, firm, cutting through the heavy heat of the auction yard like a knife. Heads turned. Whispers spread. But the tall, blond rancher with ice-blue eyes didn't flinch. He stood his ground, hands at his side, a shadow over his brow from the brim of his hat. The baby no more than a year old was naked, swaddled in a stained cloth, placed on a wooden crate like livestock. His skin was dark, his eyes wide and silent, too young to cry or maybe just too tired. The auctioneer grinned like a devil, slamming his cane on the box. "Strong boy, a future field hand, who'll give $2." No one did, except for the muttered chuckles, except for the scornful glances toward the blond man with the rifle slung over his shoulder. His name was Calderon, and for 10 years, he hadn't spoken more than 5 words at a time to anyone in that county. Folks called him the Ghost of Stone Ridge. He lived alone, worked his land alone, and kept his distance from the rod of men. But that day, something cracked, not in him but in the system, and everyone saw it, because Calder didn't walk away in silence. He walked straight up to the crate, bent down, and gently picked the baby up, not to own him, not to claim him, but to wrap him in his own coat and hand him to the black woman standing off to the side, tears streaming down her cheeks. Chained at the wrists. "He don't belong to no one but you," Calder said, locking eyes with her captor. "You touch either of them again, you'll be buried where you stand." No one moved. Not even the sheriff. That night, Calder rode home like always, alone, or so he thought. But by sunrise, the dirt road to his ranch looked different. They came silently, first 2, then 10, then more. Men and women, some on foot, some on horses borrowed or broken. Dozens of freed slaves and runaways, standing shoulder to shoulder in front of his gate. And at the front, the same woman from the auction yard, now holding her baby close, her head high. Calder stepped out, shotgun at his side, but lowered. "I didn't call for nobody," he said flatly. The woman stepped forward. "You didn't have to. We heard what you did." Behind her, the crowd stood still, no fists raised, no weapons drawn, just the weight of generations in their eyes. Calder glanced at the land behind him, 3,000 acres of open dirt, broken fences, and fields overrun with wild grass. His land was dying, and he'd been too proud to ask for help. Now help had come, unasked, and waiting for his answer. They didn't come with demands. They came with skills. Within days, the ranch transformed. Broken plows were mended, horses groomed and fed. The well that hadn't run in months was flowing again after 3 men dug deeper for hours without rest. They didn't wait for orders. They worked because they had finally found land where they weren't chased by dogs or branded with fear. Calder kept his distance at first, watched, measured, but one evening, he saw a boy teaching his mare tricks with nothing but whispers and hand signals. Another built a saddle from scrap leather better than anything Calder had paid for in town. The woman, her name was Etta, had taken over the kitchen, feeding a dozen mouths from next to nothing, and every night they left a plate for Calder at his door. Every night he left it untouched until one day he didn't. The townsfolk noticed, of course. They rode out one afternoon, 7 men on horseback, led by the same auctioneer who had once barked over a baby's body. "You turn this place into a plantation," he spat. Calder didn't say a word, just stepped out onto the porch with his rifle resting against the post. "Only difference," he finally muttered, "is nobody here's chained and nobody here answers to you." The men didn't return. Weeks turned to months. The ranch began to flourish, and Calder, he laughed again. He spoke. He listened. One evening, Etta came to him holding the baby, now crawling and full of life. "He don't got a name," she said. Softly, Calder took the boy into his arms. His own father had never held him like that. "Name him Jude," Calder said. "Means praise." That night, they sat on the porch together, the ghost, the mother, the child, and the people who turned soil and sweat into something sacred. He hadn't refused to buy a baby because he didn't care. He'd refused Because a soul ain't something you bid on. And now, for the first time in a long, bitter life, Calder Rowe wasn't alone. He was part of something. Something built not by blood, but by choice. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button and drop a karma in the comments below.